Let's get started right away. The replay button. He just left a coffee meeting. Everyone laughed and talked happily. No one seemed annoyed. But in his head, a flashback clip immediately plays. He kept replaying the scene where he accidentally interrupted a story. Wait, was what I said weird back there? Why were they silent for 5 seconds? Do they think I'm graceless? And so, instead of relaxing, his brain became a Hollywood editing room. Does that sound familiar? That's the replay button. Psychologists call this phenomenon rumination, chewing over memories, but with the added subtitle, self-blame. In fact, 99% of the time, no one remembers what he said. They're also busy going home to cook dinner, answer emails, or decide whether to order pizza or salad tonight. But he's different. He turned an accidental frown into proof that everyone secretly hates me. That's why every time he attends a social gathering, this guy not only participates in the party, but also takes on the role of post-production director. And ironically, the more I rewind, the more distorted the movie in my head becomes. Finally, in real life, no one remembers what he said after 5 minutes. But in his head, that scene replayed up to 50 times. Like a TikTok clip his brain stubbornly refused to scroll past. Next, the scenario builder. This guy can turn the most ordinary situation into a full-blown Hollywood blockbuster with 100 different storylines. Getting ready for work? His brain is already running previews. What if it rains? What if the bus breaks down? What if my boss asks that one question I don't know the answer to? For a normal person, the day starts with coffee. For him, it starts with a full emergency meeting in his head, complete with a director, writers, and CGI budget. The paradox here is 99% of these disasters have never actually happened, but he's still prepared a backup plan. Mango. Write defensive notes, rehearse 10 different answers just to say good morning to colleagues. Psychologists call this anticipatory anxiety, worrying about a future that hasn't arrived yet. Meanwhile, netizens jokingly call it main character energy, but in the worst multiverse. What's the problem of the scenario builder? The more scenarios he came up with, the more stuck he became. Instead of going outside and letting things happen naturally, he was stuck in his own editing room. Ultimately, this excessive preparation only left him exhausted from all the artificial disasters he'd experienced in his head. Joking aside, in real life, it might just be a scorching sunny morning, light traffic, and red lights. But in his head, it turned into Avengers, Endgame, global apocalypse. All because he had to wait 15 more seconds at a red light. The social media analyst. Ordinary people browse social media for entertainment. And him? He analyzed it as if he were submitting a report to the CIA. A scene without a reply? Red flags in a relationship? A like icon instead of a love icon? Clear evidence of indifference. And what if someone posts a story without tagging him? Congratulations, in his mind, that friendship just entered a level 3 crisis. He analyzes every post and every reaction like a stock market analyst. A smiling emoji can be dissected into 3 different hypotheses. A misplaced punctuation mark becomes a signal that something is wrong. As a result, other people's Facebook/Instagram/TikTok feeds are no longer a place for entertainment, but have become a giant data wall for him to sit to decode. It sounds funny, but this is classic overthinking. His brain doesn't allow neutral information to just be information. It must be analyzed, inferred, and then constructed into a complex social scenario. Psychologists call this interpretive bias, the tendency to assign negative meaning to harmless signals. Meanwhile, netizens jokingly call him full-time FBI agent, but only to track his crush's likes. The problem is, the more he analyzes, the more exhausted he becomes, because in real life, A like emoji only means okay. But in his head, it turned into a 20-page report titled, Why I'm About to Be Dumped. The Over-Apologizer. He apologized for everything. 5 minutes late? Sorry. Replying to messages a bit slowly? Oh my God. So sorry, bro. Did someone accidentally bump into him at the supermarket? It's still. Oops. Sorry. My bad. Even when he just exists sometimes, he feels the need to say sorry. In his mind, every social situation is a trial where he must justify himself and apologize before anyone can judge him. Every glance, every silence, every unread message, he interprets it all as, did I do something wrong? Did I bother them? Okay, I'll apologize in advance just to be sure. It sounds polite, but this is disguised overthinking. Sorry isn't just to appease others, but also to quell inner anxieties, fear of being disliked, fear of bothering others, fear of not being good enough. Psychologists call this excessive reassurance seeking, the constant need for forgiveness or acceptance to reduce anxiety. In reality, the more the over-apologizer apologizes, the smaller these people make themselves. Friends are so used to hearing it that they don't even pay attention anymore. In real life, no one remembers if you mistyped a word in a message. But in his mind, it was a sin that needed to be apologized for 3 times. Jokingly speaking, if apologizing were an Olympic sport, he would definitely have won a gold medal. And would still say, sorry, I should have gotten the silver medal. Ha ha ha. The time traveler. This guy is never in the present. His mind was either stuck in the past or racing straight into the future. Yesterday's awkward joke, he replayed it 100 times as if it were the biggest plot twist of his life. Next week's presentation? In his head, it had failed in 3 different versions, complete with a full, tragic soundtrack. The time traveler's brain works like a broken Netflix. It replays old episodes while also leaking trailers for a disaster that was never filmed. Sitting down for breakfast, everyone was just enjoying pancakes. But he imagined he'd forgotten to pay the electricity bill, then thought about the power being cut off, and then extrapolated all the way to living in a cardboard box in 5 years. Psychology calls this phenomenon temporal overthinking, overthinking about non-existent timelines. But on a lighter note, it's like being stuck in a B-movie multiverse, constantly jumping back and forth between what if I had done things differently yesterday and tomorrow is definitely going to be a disaster. Ironically, the past cannot be edited and the future hasn't happened yet. In real life, today is just a normal Tuesday, but in his head, it's a Back to the Future remake, except every timeline ends with the line, yeah, I'm definitely screwed. The Meta Overthinker. If the replay button specializes in revisiting memories and the scenario builder constructs apocalyptic scenarios, then the Meta Overthinker takes overthinking to a whole new level. He overthinks about the very act of overthinking. The story began simply. He realized he had been worrying too much, and instead of stopping, his brain immediately switched to internal questioning mode. Wait, am I overthinking? If that's true, how do I stop it? But if I try to stop and can't, doesn't that mean I am overthinking even more? From a small thought, he opened up a multi-layered vortex as if his brain were running the Inception version. Each question leads to another, leaving no way out. A study in the Journal of Anxiety Disorders shows that this phenomenon is also known as metacognitive rumination, when you're not just worried about the problem, but also worried about your own worrying mind. His brain is like a laptop with too many Chrome tabs open. Each tab is an endless what if. The CPU runs hot, the battery drains quickly, and eventually, the entire system lags. In real life, people have moved on to other things. But in his head, the debate, am I overthinking, continued to run, an endless loop. Jokingly speaking, if overthinking were a sport, he wouldn't just be competing, he'd be live streaming commentary on how he was competing. The Paralysis Master. He thinks so much that he can't move. A typical example, standing in front of a restaurant menu. 10 minutes passed, people had ordered, the food was brought out, and they had even finished checking in. And him? Still glued to the menu, his brain was running in circles. What if I choose the burger? But salad is healthier. But pizza could be better. But ordering pizza, am I being too lazy to cook? What if I choose wrong? And so the only thing he could eat was paralysis. Psychologists call this analysis paralysis, the phenomenon of overanalyzing to the point of being unable to make a decision. Instead of reducing risk, overthinking only made him sink deeper into worry. A study by Stanford University shows that when people have too many choices, their satisfaction level doesn't increase, but on the contrary, decreases significantly because they are always afraid of missing out on a better option. To put it lightly, in real life, everyone has finished eating, paid the bill, and is getting ready to leave, but he just sat there, considering whether to order extra cheese topping. The final result? Hungry, exhausted, and blaming myself for not being able to make any decent decisions. The Paralysis Master is a living testament to the saying, sometimes the price of perfection is doing nothing at all. The Zen of Overthinking. This is the final level of overthinking, where the brain twists to the extreme, and then suddenly shifts into Zen mode. He started with a series of scenarios. What if I miss the deadline tomorrow? What if the boss hates this idea? What if my life goes into a nosedive? The CPU doesn't run as hot as a gaming CPU. But then boom, instead of seeking more answers, he just gave up. Oh, well, let the universe decide. Psychologists call this phenomenon cognitive fatigue, when the brain gets so tired that it automatically shuts down. It's like when you scroll through Netflix for an hour to choose a movie, and in the end, you turn off the TV and go to sleep. Overthinking goes in a giant circle, then suddenly returns to the starting point. Silence, acceptance, and even a strange kind of chill. It sounds almost like the wisdom of a Zen master, but in reality, it's just a brain out of battery. A study from Harvard University shows that when the brain is overwhelmed with choices, people often choose to give up rather than continue considering. The difference is, the Zen of Overthinking turns it into a philosophy of life. Just let the universe take care of it. Sitting and meditating with a cup of milk tea is enough. In conclusion, overthinking has enough upgraded versions from mild to hardcore. And if you find yourself stuck on more than one level, then congratulations, that's a very normal sign. You're completely human. Now tell me, which level do you empathize with the most? Drop a comment below. Hit like if you see yourself in this video, and don't forget to subscribe so next time. Your brain has a few new things to overthink.